what it means to be a professional creator, and one, obviously pay my bills, but also to like learn from them and apply that to my own stuff.
Today we're excited to meet Audrey Ember. Audrey has been involved in the creator industry for over 8 years. She runs her own YouTube channel creating videos, documenting her journey as an aspiring artist. She's also a producer and video editor for Milan, who's averaging around 3 million views every single video.
But Audrey's not stopping there. She's passionate about the power of women supporting women in the creator economy. When I saw your videos, it kind of put my videos to shame.
The people that I was watching definitely forged the direction of my channel.
How do you brainstorm your idea to kind of scripting everything out, to filming it, to editing it, to uploading it? Like, what does that process look like?
I spent a lot of time on pre-prep to make sure that like general story structure makes sense.
How long would it have taken you to learn that, or is probably the most important part of the whole video?
A couple months or whatever, and see like where that fits in, and then I find the gaps and then I fill in those gaps.
What would be some of the tips you would give them?
I feel like the main advice that is applicable everywhere is to just learn as much about like what is good storytelling as possible.
Stay tuned for YouTube insights you won't find anywhere else. This is the Playstack podcast, where we talk about everything YouTube growth.
Awesome, Audrey. Thank you so much for joining. This is super exciting. I've been following you for, I honestly don't know how many years, but somehow, because I think we're coming from similar journeys in the sense that we started creating and we're like trying things out and we posting things. You've took it a lot further than I have personally, but as I said, I've been following you for a while, and I was super excited when you joined the team at Alan Pan, or you probably run his whole show by now, but you're trying to be honest about it, or modest about it. So before we get really into it, can you tell us who you are and what you do exactly?
Yeah, so I've been making videos just on my own for I think over 8 years now. I started in high school, so it's been a little while. And basically I like to document my journey as like a creative person trying to make this into a career. And the past, 4 or 5 years, I've been also working for other people to try and, well, one, obviously pay my bills, but also to like learn from them on like what it means to be a professional creator and apply that to my own stuff. So I've been freelance editing for people. That's like what I did for a while, and I'm doing that again now. And then I also have worked for creators. Like I worked for Alan Pan for a year as a producer. So that was a lot of fun and I learned a lot. And yeah, I also have like a couple side projects. Like I want to start a nonprofit called CreateHer, which is all about like connecting and uplifting women who make videos. So yeah.
So it's interesting because I was checking out your channel, and so we started around this. So we started YouTube around the same time. So I posted my first video about 8 years ago, also in 2016, and
Nice.
It's interesting. Like when I saw your videos, it kind of put my videos to shame because they're so creative and so kind of like the time and resources you put behind your videos is something that I wish that I could do. So I'm curious, because like we've gone very different ways. So I've gone kind of like very kind of boring talking head, just put a camera there and talk to the camera. Whereas you're a lot more creative, a lot more engaging, there's a lot more kind of storytelling. What made you go that specific way?
I mean, honestly, like when I was getting started, I never really made a conscious decision about what I was doing. I was a fan of YouTube for a long time, like growing up. So I kind of just did like whatever I thought was fun at the time. And a lot of like the path I went down had to do with the people that I was watching. I was very easily inspired. I mean, I still am, but like when I was getting started, especially like the people that I was watching definitely forged the direction of my channel. And I don't know, I kind of was just trying to learn as much as I could. And I really was drawn to like the vlogging side. And eventually I got more into like making videos more cinematic because I just thought it was fun. And I guess that's kind of led me to where I am now with the more, I don't even know really how to describe it, like storytelling cinematic vlogs about my life, I guess. It was a very like natural progression of just what am I interested in? And my goal with YouTube has always been like, if I'm going to do it myself, I want to do it in a way that is interesting to me. Otherwise, I'll find something else to do, you know, for a living, money wise. It's something that is very important to me, so I don't want to like, you know, use it in a way that would make me more money. Like I want to figure out a way to do this in a way that I like, so it's more sustainable for the long term because I love it. So yeah.
Yeah. So when you're making one of your videos, the work, what does the workflow look like, right? So for example, how do you brainstorm your idea to kind of scripting everything out, to filming it, to editing it, to uploading it? Like, what does that process look like?
I mean, it's been changing a lot recently because I've kind of, when I was working for Alan and, you know, living in LA, I was very busy with just work stuff. So I was kind of also exploring and trying to figure out like what I wanted to do with my own personal stuff again. Because before it was a lot more like in the moment, I kind of just filmed whatever. Um, but now, after I've learned a lot and I've been kind of inspired by all these different people and workflows, like now my workflow is very much, I spend a lot of time on pre production now. Um, my videos are more like, they're not, in my opinion, like accurate reflections of my life because a lot of it is filmed afterwards to make sure that it fits the storyline properly. It's definitely like it's like an adaptation of my life. It's like a representation of what I've been going through in a way that makes sense in a YouTube video and for like strangers to digest, if that makes sense. Um, so I spent a lot of time on pre-production to make sure that like the general story structure makes sense. And then after that, I'll go in and I'll look at all the footage that I've been kind of filming sporadically over the past couple months or whatever and see like where that fits in, and then I find the gaps and then I fill in those gaps. So, um, like my last video, I kind of, the intro I made about like, I made an intro about going to a cafe and like a conversation I had with this random old man who's actually my dad.
Oh, really?
um,
Because I,
yeah,
I was wondering who that was and how I was
yeah, it
wondering
was my
how you
dad.
asked him to like join you. I thought it was like the I don't know someone at the shop or someone
Nope.
buying coffee or something.
Nope, that's my dad. So we just, I thought like, because when I was planning that video, I knew I wanted it to be about like the reality of following your dreams and like your goals as a creative person. But I was like, I don't want me to start off my own hero arc. Like, I want someone else to tell me to do it. So like, I did that whole skit with my dad to kind of like uh, get the movement flowing for the video and kind of give it a purpose. I have had conversations like that in the past, but like, you see how it's like a an adaptation almost of like things that I've experienced, but put together in a way to where it like moves the story forward. So I do that a lot. So the editing is honestly the easiest part for me because I can just, once I have all the pieces, it's just a matter of assembling them. That's more like a technical process than anything. The real stuff happens in pre-production, in my opinion.
I can only imagine. And so, how long would it have taken you to learn that or realize that pre-production is probably the most important part of your whole video? Like, if we're looking at your own channel, like from the first videos you went through, like just recording your day to day to what you're doing now, like what was like a tipping point for you? Was that working with other people or, yeah.
Yes, it was definitely working with other people. Like, at first, when I was getting really busy working for others and I wasn't posting on my own channel, I was like really upset with myself because I was like, I'm not posting as much. Like, this is the whole point. Like, you know, whatever. But in hindsight, I'm really glad that I kind of took that time because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have learned lots of things about how to make good YouTube videos. And like one of the things that I think, you know, you hear a lot of creators say is like, the algorithm doesn't like me, or like, you know, like I used to say that all the
Mm.
time when I was like getting started. And I think after working with people who do this professionally, like the one thing you realize is like what makes them professionals is that they know how to make a good video on basically whatever. So in my opinion, that's what makes a profession, like someone a professional at being a creator, someone who can make good content on any topic because they understand the skill that goes into making a good YouTube video. And a lot of that has to do with pre-production and like just making sure that like the story is good. Um, yeah, and most people can't do that like in the moment, you know.
You mentioned that you were kind of a producer for Alan Pan for a year, and you said that you learned a lot from him. I'm curious, what are kind of the main things that you learned working with him?
I mean, I think the main thing that Alan helped me learn was to like question everything that I do. So, because before, like, I've kind of always been the type of person to go off of like my gut instinct or like how I feel about something, and Alan's more like logical. So like he'll always ask like, well, why did you put, you know, this visual over this piece of VO? And like when I was getting started, I had no answer. Just like I felt like it was the right thing to put there, you know. And I think he really helped me kind of think more critically about like everything that I do when I'm making something, because I think that's like what really makes stuff good is when you are putting thought in like there should be a reason behind every shot, or like an example would be like if you're trying to make a scene more sad, it's like you might just kind of randomly put in stuff that's darker. But you know, for me, he'd be like, well, why'd you put this here? And I was like, I don't know, it felt like it was right to put it there because it's like dark. And he'd be like, well, why is that? And then I kind of like have to elaborate on that more, and it could lead to like better decisions, and just make the videos make more sense. And especially with like YouTube content or just social media stuff in general, like you have to be very intentional because you don't have much time to like capture somebody's attention. So if you're just kind of throwing stuff around because it feels good, you know, it's a lot more likely to perform better if you're actually thinking through things critically and like making sure that like it makes sense.
Yeah, I found that with our thumbnail designers, like you'll see the kind of lesser experienced designers that will do a certain thing. They will design a thumbnail, and then you'll ask them, okay, why did you design it like that? And they're like, oh, because it
Mm-hmm.
looks nice. But like thumbnail
Yeah.
design, a lot of it is, and similar to video editing, I guess, a lot of it is psychology. So the best thumbnail designers, they really understand psychology, and they understand why the text is like that, why the colors are like that. Um, so I guess it's similar there.
Yeah, the biggest one is like Diary of a CEO, right? Like I don't know, Stephen Bartlett in his videos, he literally it's a black background, a face with a microphone and a quote. But yet they're probably like I would love to see those click through rates. But that's
Yeah, even the psychology, like you've got the red text over like the most powerful word. Like if you see the most powerful words in the text is highlighted in red because of psychology, color psychology, and then you've got black background with white text again, like the highest contrast you can get, which is black and white.
Yeah.
Just like a masterpiece, really. That entire YouTube channel.
I haven't heard of it, but that sounds really cool.
it's very simple. But like when I look at yours, they're also like really attention grabbing. I really like that. Especially the third last one you made, where your dream job turned out to be my worst nightmare. Is that the one you? I
Mm,
think that's the one you talk about, Alan, right? But
yeah.
like how you sit in like between cameras, but the cameras are massive. That's awesome. Or shooting with a literal potato. Yeah, but it's really cool to see though. Like your last 5 videos or 6 videos have been doing like way better than the ones before that. What do you think was the reason for that? Is that pre-production you were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just more attention to detail, basically. Like, I think it's been really cool to see, like, uh, the improvement that I've had from working with other people because it's very, you can literally see it in just the views themselves, which is very encouraging because it kind of reinforces that, like, if you know what you're doing, you know, you'll do better. You know, when I think about, like, oh, I wish I'd spent more time making my own stuff instead of working for other people, it's like, yeah, well, would I have improved as much if I hadn't done that? And the answer is probably no. So, it's really cool to see that like it's literally mostly reflected in the numbers. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
For people that are like, obviously, the ideas for this podcast for people to listen to it and learn practical or whatever it is to improve their views and their channels in general, right? Like the
Yeah.
our main clients, for example, are B2B. So for them, it's a direct outcome to get more views. But for other creators that just want to grow and get better, what would be like some of the tips you would give them? And I mean, looking at your channel, you've been working on it for 7, 8 years. Um, to shorten that journey that you had to go through, what would you tell them?
I mean, it really depends on the type of channel, but I feel like the main advice that is applicable everywhere is to just learn as much about like what is good storytelling as possible. Because I think at the core, like that's what makes a good YouTube video. Um, regardless of topic, I think this applies. And I wouldn't, focus just on YouTube content. I think that's a mistake that I made early on was like I was kind of proud of it. I was like, yeah, I only watch YouTube videos. Like I don't watch movies. I don't do anything else. Like I'm just focused on this. But actually I think like it can be good to, have a solid understanding of YouTube and you need to have that. But I've learned a lot about, what makes a good story from other forms of media too, like movies and books. So I would definitely recommend like studying the art of storytelling because it's applicable to whatever type of video you want to make.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that resonates a lot. Literally, for example, just watched Oppenheimer last night, and then just
Mm,
thinking from a story perspective, it's like an insane movie,
yeah.
and I think that can be implemented as well into just everyday creating.
Yeah, I was watching Hijack on Apple TV with Idris Elba. Incredible, incredible series. And there was so many curiosity loops and cliffhangers. Exactly how Mr. Beast does it. It's
Yeah.
interesting how there's similarities between like a YouTube video and a film. And it's the same
Yeah.
with, for example, like pacing, like music pacing. Like in a film, you won't have the same speed or same pace of music throughout, or the speed that someone's talking. In the film, it will go slow, then it will go high, fast, and then in the YouTube videos, it will be the same. It should be the same, because at the end of the day, it's all psychology. Like
Yeah.
the end goal of a film is audience retention. Similarly, the end goal of a YouTube video is audience retention.
Yeah. It's Yeah, I wish like I had done that earlier on because like I went to film school for a year and the whole time I was sitting there I was like I want to learn about like social media, like this is dumb. And like I wish I just like been more like instead of hoping people would teach me how to make a good YouTube video, which is literally at least right now like not possible in like traditional college, like I wish I just focused on like the storytelling that they were teaching and the lessons from the films themselves instead of being so like narrowed in on just one thing.
I'm curious how. So storytelling is very very important, but how do you kind of like what inspires you to come up with that story? Or let's say you sit down at your desk and you're like, okay, I need to make a video, but I need a really good story, or I really need a really good idea. What do you do to get that story, or to get that idea, or to get inspired?
I mean, for my personal channel, it's very inspired by like whatever I'm experiencing, like regarding my creative side. So I try and find like feelings or experiences that are very kind of universal, like very relatable. Like a lot of creative people would probably be feeling that same emotion, and I kind of just go off of that. So it's a lot easier for me to make stuff when it's like something that I feel is worth sharing. And what I'm most passionate about is like helping people kind of realize their creative potential, I guess. And if they want to turn into a job, like that's another thing that I'd love to help with. So I don't know. I kind of just go off of like whatever is interesting to me at the time because honestly, I'll put the most effort into it and it'll probably end up being a better video.
Hmm.
Um, like that attitude is different, obviously, when I'm working for clients. a lot of the time the story has nothing to do with me and I'm not like personally super passionate about, but that's just a whole different, that's work, right? So I just have a different mindset when I'm doing that. But for my personal stuff, like I go off of what is exciting to me at the time.
So how do you work with clients? Like, is it do they come up with the story, or do they come up with the idea, or is it you, or how does that work in terms of the delegation of who does what?
I mean, it can depend. Like some clients will give me more. Like when I worked with Alan, it was definitely more of a like back and forth. We were trying to come up with the concepts together a lot of the time and figuring out the storyline as well. Um, but most of the time when I'm just like editing for people, like I like to look at a video like as the creator is like the director of the video. So if I'm like working for someone, I'm more of like a tool to like try and help bring this story to life as best as possible. Um, so that's kind of my mindset when I'm working for other people most of the time, unless they like directly ask for ideas or if I see like there's a hole somewhere, like I'll offer advice or something. But I try and be a more like supplementary role when I'm working for other people most of the time.
That's cool. And for example, with Alan, what's was your favorite video to work on? And or like, is there a video you're proud of because you were able to bring that storyline out, or you were able to like really bring that around? And why?
Let's see.
Because I'm
I
looking
mean,
at
the
his
one
videos and
that,
he has his wacko
hold on,
videos.
let me, I'm gonna just look real quick and refresh my memory because I think we did like 8 videos together in total. Um, Honestly, I think one of my favorites was probably the arm wrestling one that we did, where he built an exoskeleton to help him
Yeah,
win at arm wrestling against really strong people. Um,
I saw that one.
that one, like, I feel like it was probably one of our most straightforward videos because we came up with the concept first, which like Alan normally does that. But like we already had the idea for the thumbnail kind of lined out, and this whole like nerd versus jock thing is a very popular trend on YouTube. So we kind of went into it like knowing if we do this well, like there's potential to reach new audiences. And I had to find like as because I was not just editing, I was also a producer. So I had to find like an arm wrestling pro to be in this video and like have him bring his arm wrestling table and then like organize the whole thing at Venice Beach. And it was a whole ordeal, but it was a lot of fun. Like Tony, the guy who helped us, was awesome. And like I remember we still struggled with the intro, which we normally would. Like honestly, the intro is always the hardest part of the process to figure out like how to properly motivate it. Um, but once we did that, like I feel like it was just an enjoyable process and experience because it was more straightforward and like it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones was the air umbrella because I think this was a
Yes.
multi-part series, wasn't it?
Yep.
Or there was a whole bigger story arc around it where there was like one guy that where you guys tried to find.
Yeah. That was like the whole Michael Superbacker saga. I think it was 2 videos or 3 videos. Two. Yeah, that was kind of how Alan and I first met because of Michael Superbacker. Just to give context, if people have no idea what we're talking about, this there was a Kickstarter about like a guy who made an air umbrella, so it was supposed to repel water with air, and it turned out to be a scam. Like no one actually got the air umbrellas. And so Michael Superbacker, who's just like a normal dude, he was posting like every week for like 5 years or something, asking where they were and wanting a refund. And so Alan decided to like actually make him one. So that's like the first video is him making it.
Yeah.
But no one knew who Michael was. Like no one could get a hold of him. And so Alan reached out to me because Michael was following me for some reason on like Twitter to like try and get to Michael. So that's how we met. And then like I was telling him like, yeah, I like edit and stuff, and then it kind of went from there. And eventually, we were working together like full time.
That was honestly like a really good series because indeed, like per video had like a different objective, and then eventually the objective was to find him who he is, and then
Yeah.
another one was to actually give the umbrella to him. Um,
Hmm.
well, wasn't a 100% success of the umbrella, but
I mean, it
yeah,
technically
that's really
worked. It
cool.
was just a little loud.
Yeah, cool. So we've talked a little bit about your journey and stuff like that, especially now you're getting more experience. But can you tell us more about the nonprofit you're building?
Yeah. So I think the idea for CreateHer like happened like when I was in college because I was talking to some of my friends, like some of my first ever friends who also made YouTube videos, and I was asking like, who are your favorite creators? And like all my girlfriends, their favorite creators were also girls, and I realized like all mine were like middle aged guys, and I was like, that's interesting. Why do I not follow like literally any girls? But it's because I was consuming like the Peter McKinnon esque content. So most of those creators were also guys. And that's, when I started looking, I found them. And it was really inspiring to me at the time because I was like, oh, like, I don't feel as weird anymore, compared to other people in my circle. Now I've found other people, they're just not here, but like they're out there. And especially as I started, becoming more part of this community, and um, I don't know, it's just like I've realized like how important friends are, people who kind of get what you're going through. And it's good to have like a diverse group of friends, right? I feel like everyone can agree on that. And when I was getting started, most of my friends were all guys, just because that's like who were pursuing the similar types of things as me. So my idea with CreateHer was kind of started in like a selfish way of like I want to find more girlfriends, just to have like, you know more friends in general to talk to about stuff. But then from there, it's kind of grown. As I've gotten older, I realized like really just how important that is, to have other girls that you can turn to talk to about stuff. Um, so my idea for like Create Her has definitely developed over the years. Before it was just like a way for me to find other girls, to be friends with, but now it's more like I love to turn this into something that can really help people kind of get started. Because I feel like especially for girls, it's harder to find mentors and stuff, like especially when you're younger. I never had people like in my life who were really into making videos or anything. And that's a lot of the time how people get into this industry in the first place. So um, my goal with the nonprofit is to have like a yearly film festival, which I'm really excited about because I think it'll be a really cool way to like showcase upcoming talent, and then also just an excuse to bring people like into the same room. And then I also have plans of doing like a mentorship program, something that like, directly connecting people together who might not be able to find each other otherwise. Um, and yeah, just like other smaller projects like community meetups and access to, discounted materials and stuff like that. Just basically anything to help people get started, make it easier to find friends.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like the first guest we had on this podcast was Apriline, and
Mm,
obviously Mike and I, we are men in this space, and we're very ignorant about this, to be honest. And one of the things she mentioned is like there's so few. There's, I mean, there's a lot of women creators, especially if you go and look into certain niches. But there's only a few that are actually like, for example, in her case, was teaching YouTube or coaching on YouTube. And so, for other females to learn about YouTube, it's always male dominated. And
yeah.
for us, like, I mean, big, like, damn, that's true. So it's really exciting that
Yeah.
like you're doing that.
Because
Yeah.
I noticed it as well, where YouTube is more male dominated, but I thought it was because of the people I was following on YouTube. Like I also follow like a lot of business YouTubers,
Mm.
and I just assumed it's because of the content that I was following. But no, it seems like there are far fewer female creators on YouTube than there are male.
Yeah, I mean, it does definitely depend on the niche. One thing that's really encouraging though is I feel like short form has made it a lot easier for girls to kind of join this community just because it's more accessible. Like one of the arguments I've seen before in my comments and stuff is like girls just aren't naturally interested in like cinematic stuff or in cameras. And like that literally makes no sense. Because if you look at stuff like short form, where it's kind of served to you in an organic manner, compared to like YouTube, where you have to make that conscious decision to click on a thumbnail. If you're like a 16-year-old girl and the thumbnail's a middle-aged dude, you're a lot less likely to click on it. Like you have to have an already established interest in the topic. Otherwise, you're not going to go out of your way to search for it or click on it. But on like TikTok or something, if you're just kind of if you're swiping and a video comes up of like a really cool camera hack and it's a girl or even a guy, it doesn't matter if it's like served to you organically and you watch it and then TikTok continues to serve you that type of content, you're more likely to like get into that than, if you were just kind of randomly searching on YouTube, right? So I think we're seeing a lot more girls making stuff in these communities now because of short form, which is really, really awesome.
So you're into the cinematic content kind of stuff. Like, what is your do you um get inspired by Life of Riza, for example? Like, she really like hit it off big time in on YouTube. Why do you think that worked really well for her as well? But because she grew very quick, or she came on everybody's radar.
Yeah. I mean, it's been very encouraging to see how well Cariza's stuff has been doing because I think for a while, like we've been seeing a lot of the same type of content, especially within like this like storytelling, filmmaking people. Like it's kind of been a lot of the same for a while now. Um, so it was really really nice to see her grow so much because her style is a lot more like laid back and very focused on storytelling, which I think are two really good things. And especially for me at the type of stuff I like to make, like I would consider my stuff to also be a bit like slower paced. So that was is very exciting to me. I think it did so well because like YouTube has seasons almost, and I think the last big season was like the Mr. Beast like sensationalism era, and I think we're kind of like slowly moving not out of that. Like sensational content will always be big and very relevant, but like I think people want just more like authentic stories basically. um and even like Mr. Beast has been doing that a lot more recently, which I think is just kind of confirming that that's where we're headed. um so I think that's partially why Cariza's stuff is doing so well. It's because people miss that and they crave that, and it's not like, I think the closest type of content I could compare it to is like when vlogging was really popular a couple years ago. um but Cariza's stuff is a bit more put together. It's a little bit more like modern, but it still gives you that authentic feeling. So it's kind of, I think it's like part of this new wave that's coming up, which in my opinion is really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Even Mr. Beast said it himself that he's consciously slowing down these things. But cool. Thank you so much for joining. I want to actually ask you one more thing. What's up for you in the next uh, year or two for you personally?
Oh god. Um, I mean, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, basically. Like, I want to really focus on my channel and seeing where I can get it now that I'm kind of getting back into it seriously again. Um, and yeah, hopefully I can also start CreateHer stuff more seriously in the next couple years as well. Um, But yeah, I think right now, like, I'm just trying to really solidify what the next season for my channel looks like, because I was kind of out of the game for a while, learning a lot, and now I'm back, so I'm very excited.
That's awesome. So for the people that want to check out all your work, where can they follow you?
It's Audrey Ember basically everywhere, mostly on YouTube, but yeah, I post stuff on Instagram too.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was amazing to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
And hope to do another one in a few years and see where you got.
Oh God.
Yeah, thank you, Audrey. Appreciate it.
Thank you.